the first episode of the Rizal 110 podcast, and today we will get to know what Rizal 110 is and what important knowledge one can gain from it. But first, let us introduce ourselves to our viewers. My name is Aidan Vic F. Baloco, the host of this podcast, along with some of my fellow colleagues, Christian T. Pinaglinawan, Leandro E. Refule, John Carlos Nico C. Reyes, and Riel Andre D. Idio, who are here to discuss some important aspects of what Rizal 110 has to offer. Now first, let us ask the question to ourselves. Who is Rizal? Like who is Rizal to us or who is Rizal in general? This is to be introduced by Leandro E. Refule.
Thank you for that. So again, who is Rizal? Jose Rizal is one of the most important figures in Philippine history. He's known as our national hero, but he was also known for many things: a writer, a doctor, a teacher, and a true Filipino who loved his country. Rizal was born on June 19, 1861 in Calamba, Laguna. He came from a well-off family, and even as a young boy, he was already smart and curious. He learned many languages, reads lots of books, and had a deep love for learning. What made Rizal special was how he fought for freedom. He didn't use weapons or join a war. Instead, he used his mind and his words. Through his books No Le Tangere and El Filibusterismo, he showed the problems in the country and the unfair treatment of Filipinos under Spanish rule. He believed that education and peaceful change were the best ways to help the country. Even though he was killed in 1896, his words and action inspired many to continue fighting for freedom. So when asked, who is Rizal? We remember him not just as a hero, but as someone who used his talents to open the eyes of Filipinos and push for change in a peaceful and intelligent way. So now that we have brief introduction on who is Rizal, let us discuss what his early life was like back then.
Even from a young age, Rizal's deep love for the Philippines was already clear. At the age of 8, he wrote a poem called Sa Aking Mga Kabata. In that poem, he said we should love our own language. This shows that even as a child, he already cared about his country. He also liked to draw, to paint, and carve things out of the clay and wood. He was very talented in both the arts and in school. So we can say that he's very intelligent. And after all these happy memories, he experienced one sad memory from his childhood. It is when his mother was put in jail, even though she did nothing wrong. This only shows how unfair the Spanish rulers were, and it stayed in his heart as he grew older. We can see that Rizal experienced a very terrible experience when he was a child, and that's why Rizal's early life was full of learning, love from his family, and early signs of being a hero. Even as a kid, he showed that he wanted to help his fellow Filipinos and fight for what is right, not with violence, but with knowledge and truth. Of course, after the sad moments back then, he also has happy moments. Actually, even our national hero, which is Rizal, fell in love many times. In fact, Rizal had several love interests throughout his life. Some historians say he had at least 9 girlfriends in different places, here in the Philippines and abroad. One of his first loves was Secunda Katigbak, a young girl from Dipa, Batangas. Rizal was only 16 when he met her. He admired her beauty and sweetness, but sadly, Segunda was already engaged to someone else. Then after Miss Segunda, then came Leonor Rivera, probably the woman Rizal loved the most. They wrote love letters to each other for many years. She was probably smart, talented, and even inspired the character of Maria Clara in his novel Noli Me Tangere. But because of distance and family problems, they couldn't be together. Leonor was forced to marry another man, and this broke Rizal's heart. While he was in Europe, Rizal, he met other women too, like Consuelo Ortiga in Spain and Suzanne Jacobi in Belgium. This woman liked him because he was kind, smart, and charming. But the woman who stayed with him until the end was Josephine Bracken. Bracken is an Irish woman he met in Dapitan. They wanted to get married, but the church refused. Still, Josephine stayed with Rizal, and many believe she was with him during his final moments. So even with all these love stories, Rizal never forget his mission. What is it? To fight for freedom and justice for Filipinos. His heart may have loved by many women, but his greatest love was always the Philippines. It is important to keep note that one's early life is quite important to what is to come to their future, as what we thought towards them when a child is young is what makes them to the people they are today.
Now let's take a closer look at Rizal's education, which played a huge role in shaping him into the national hero we know today. Rizal's thirst for knowledge began at a very young age. He learned the alphabet by the age of 3 and could already read and write by 5. His mother, Teodora Alonso, was his first teacher, and she greatly influenced his early love for learning. In fact, she was one of the strongest guiding forces in his life. He then studied under Maestro Justiano Aquino Cruz in Binyan, Laguna, where he immediately stood out for being quiet, observant, and highly intelligent. Even as a child, Rizal already showed signs of deep thinking and artistic skill. He loved drawing and writing, and had a natural curiosity for the world around him. Also, his formal academic journey really began at the Ateneo Municipal de Manila, one of the top schools during the Spanish era. There, he consistently ranked at the top of his class and eventually graduated with a Bachelor of Arts, receiving the highest honors. After Ateneo, Rizal enrolled at the University of Santo Tomas to study philosophy and letters, but he experienced discrimination from Spanish teachers, which made him more aware of the unfair treatment Filipinos face. Looking for better opportunities, he went to Spain and studied at the Universidad Central de Madrid, where he took up medicine and philosophy and letters, both at the same time. Due to his mother's blindness, along the way, he learned over 20 languages and embraced new ideas that shaped his views. Overall, for Rizal, education wasn't just about personal success. It was a way to fight injustice and inspire change. As he said, ang kabataan ang pag-asa ng bayan. He truly believed that through education, the youth could lead the country to a better future.
Rizal wasn't a revolutionary in the traditional sense. He didn't take up arms. Instead, he chose the pen as his weapon. Through his writings, he sought not immediate independence but reform. His aim? Equality between Filipinos and Spaniards under the Spanish crown. And it was through this goal that he became a central figure in the propaganda movement. Now, let's talk about the propaganda movement. This was a campaign launched by Filipino expatriates in Spain, advocating for political and social reforms in the Philippines. They used publications, essays, and speeches to demand justice, representation, and equality. Rizal's role? Monumental. His two novels, Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo, laid bare the corruption of the Spanish clergy and the abuses of the colonial system. Noli awakened sympathy, Fili stirred anger. The novels captured realities that many Filipinos were too afraid to speak about. In his essays and letters, Rizal called for the representation of the Philippines in the Spanish courts, secularization of Filipino priests, equal rights before the law, and freedom of the press. While Rizal never directly supported an armed rebellion, his writings lit the minds of many revolutionaries. Leaders like Andres Bonifacio, Emilio Jacinto, and other members of the Katipunan read Rizal's works with passion. Bonifacio in fact considered Rizal the soul of the revolution. The Katipunan even made him an honorary president despite Rizal's disapproval of violent revolution at that time. Rizal believed that education and moral transformation should come first before fighting for independence. But ironically, it was his execution on December 30, 1896 that turned him into a martyr and gave the revolution its ultimate symbol. His death galvanized the Filipinos into action. The very man who tried to avoid bloodshed became the reason many were willing to shed their own. Now here's a point of debate. Can Rizal be called the father of the revolution? While Bonifacio and others led the actual revolt, it was Rizal's ideas that created the moral and intellectual foundation of the revolution. He may not have wanted violence, but his critique of injustice was so powerful that it made rebellion inevitable. In short, he planted the seed, the pen is mightier than the sword, they say, and Rizal proved it. His life showed that revolutions do not always start in the battlefield. Sometimes they begin in the hearts and minds of people who simply want to be treated as equals.
Alright, final discussion. Now, what is Rizal Law? Well, Rizal Law is considered to be known as the Republic Act number 1425, in which, in Philippine law, it means where it's the mandation of the teaching of life and works of Dr. Jose Rizal, particularly his novels of Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo. In all public and private schools, of course, especially in all universities of the Philippines. To sum it up, it's a law where every student in the Philippines should learn about Dr. Jose Rizal and his works, where it promotes nationalism, patriotism among Filipinos by educating them about Rizal's role in the country's fight for freedom. Another point to encourage is where young Filipinos to reflect the values of Rizal stood for. Such examples would be for his love of country, critical thinking, reform, and peaceful resistance. Now, let us discuss on how important this is to Rizal's works. And to understand it, the Rizal Law was not an easy law to pass. When Catholic people back then were still in position, the law back then was being pushed back because on how the Catholics saw the works of Rizal. How most of them saw Rizal's work as an insult towards the Catholic Church and the people. But however, there are some people who saw his work more of a critique on what the Catholic was like back then. Now, introducing Father Horatio de la Costa, where he supported Jose Rizal's work because of the moral and social political value of his works. His early drafts of the bishop's letter were less harsh and more balanced, acknowledging Rizal's criticisms of the church while still affirming his patriotic goals. He saw Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo as critical but constructive criticism, in which it reflects Rizal's vision for national reform not as an anti-Catholic attacks. Another individual important for the passing of Rizal is Senator Claro M. Recto, whom is another key person in terms of passing the Rizal Bill, in which he is the one who authored the State Bill 438, in which it meant that he wanted Rizal's Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo to be taught in schools. Without the allowance of Rizal's works into the academic structure of the Philippines, the Filipino students wouldn't even know about Rizal's works. With all of the topics discussed, I do hope that you listening right now gain something important on what Rizal's work was especially for and how important it is for the Filipino people. And we do hope to see that his works are not ignored but rather passed on towards the future generations. And his teachings would inspire more people so that our country may continue to strive and find its roots once more. And that is all for this episode, and we do hope to see you once again. Have a good day, everyone.